What is up YouTube? I'm Royal, I'm rank 1 Wildrift, and before you skip to every single part of this video just to see where I've put every champion in the tier list, I just want to apologize for the lack of streams. I thought I would have more time in Europe, but I do not. However, streams will be back soon. Trust. So now let's get started with our patch 6.1a tier list, where we've had one of the biggest meta changes in a while in the jungle, because now farm heavy junglers are gonna be a lot weaker, but we're gonna have a resurgence of support style junglers and tanks and so on. So first of all, let's cover the Baron lane. I've had some more time to play since patch 6.1 and I have a lot more experience. So 6.1a is usually a more accurate tier list for patch 6.1 as well. And there's a couple things I want to bring up. First of all, I underrated Ryze in the Baron lane. This champion is just way too strong in any role, honestly, that you can get him in. Except jungle, his jungle clear is too slow. So I'm gonna have to put him in the god tier in the Baron lane as well. I'm sorry Ryze, I was not familiar with your game. I thought you would struggle against some of these bruisers, but not only do you not struggle, you absolutely destroy them. Another champion that we need to quickly talk about is Nasus. Nasus is one of the champions that I put S tier, but I thought could be god tier in my last tier list because he received some massive buffs. The new boots also work great on him, the Ionian boots that got buffed. But after doing more research, and if you guys saw my video where I talked about Nasus specifically on my new meta champions video, I talked a lot about how broken Nasus is, and I played him quite a bit, and I've decided that he's definitely a god tier champion. He might even be the best champion of this patch and the previous patch. So I'm updating my tier list. Obviously I was wrong to put him in S tier in my previous tier list. He should have been god tier to begin with. Nasus is extremely strong right now, and honestly, if you want a somewhat easy champion to abuse, definitely play Nasus. Maybe this is a champion I should do a guide on because he's quite unique with how his first ability works, and I've been a Nasus player for a long time now. He was actually one of my first mains in League of Legends 10 years ago. So Rumble, of course, is going to continue being in the god tier with Ornn, who are both great picks, and I've also added Gnar to the god tier. Gnar has been hopping between god tier and S tier in my tier list for quite a while now, but because of what the meta looks like in Baron lane right now, Gnar is actually a great pick. He's a very strong lane bully while also having strong team fights. He's able to side lane, he can kind of do it all, and I definitely think he deserves to be in god tier for this patch. Wukong has been removed from god tier after he received some nerfs. They were specifically targeted to Baron lane Wukong, and while they're not the end of the world, right, these nerfs are not completely destroying Wukong, I don't think I can rationalize putting him in the same tier as Nasus, Ryze, Gnar, Ornn, and Rumble, so he's gonna be in S tier. A lot of you in my comments have been saying that I've been underrating Aatrox, and while I think he's really strong, I don't think that the meta right now allows him to really snowball from the Baron lane, so he doesn't have the same value as some of these god tier champions that do more than just be really beefy bruisers that do a lot of damage, right? They have a lot of crowd control, they have a lot of utility, and obviously Ryze has like unbelievable damage. Moving on to the jungle tier list, and this is what you guys are probably most excited about. The meta has changed quite a bit. Obviously, this is just my tier list a few days after the patch. These are my first thoughts and opinions, but this is a huge meta shifting change that will only become really visible many patches out. However, what you really need to know is that AFK farming as a jungler is no longer the most optimal strategy. Before this patch, you could just completely ignore everything, AFK farm, get extremely fed, and then roll over the enemy team with your high stats because of how much gold and XP you have. However, now because you get 20% less gold in the mid and late game, you need to be more active in the map. I see a lot of people saying that, oh, this makes jungle unplayable, or jungle sucks now, but that's not true. Jungle will continue being the best role in the game, and on top of that, the best junglers will be even better now. The junglers that understand the fundamentals of the game, they understand how to support their team, how to get their team ahead, will shine. The days of just AFK farming your jungle and rolling over the enemy team, which takes no skill, is no longer in existence. So you having good mechanics is not good enough to be the best jungler anymore. You need to understand the game's fundamentals. You need to play around your winning lanes. You need to do gank setup. You need to find creative pathing. The jungle has become so much better after this patch. But let's quickly talk about the tier list and the champions that benefit the most from this. So, starting off with Amumu. Amumu has been the best jungler for a few patches now, but this change makes him even better because Amumu is able to be played as a low economy jungler, meaning that you don't need a lot of gold to be useful with Amumu because of his ultimate, which is one of the best team fight abilities in the game, and of course his passive that synergizes so well with many of the current meta mid laners, the mages, right? So Amumu is super benefiting from that. Other champions that are benefiting are champions that have really good ganks, number one, or provide a lot of utility for their team. So champions like Rammus, champions like Warwick, champions like Jarvan, Vi, Wukong, Lee Sin, champions that have really good ganks will benefit immensely. Nunu, right? And then junglers that are more focused on AFK farming, like a Shyvana or a Master Yi, or champions that relied on the extra gold that you got from the jungle to be useful, like a Zed or even a Yone and Nyla, right? Those champions use the jungle just to get fed and didn't really play jungle properly. They would just farm the jungle and just be so fed. Kayle is another example, right? The only reason they went jungle is so they can get the most amount of gold. They don't even play jungle the correct way, right? So those champions will be quite weaker than other champions that, yes, are farm heavy, however, they still have a lot of utility, like the Morgana, like the Lilia, even like the Echo are still gonna be really good champions because those champions provide more than just maxing out your stats as quickly as possible and taking over the game with stats. This change, however, does not mean that every champion that's good at farming is gonna be weak now, and every champion that's good at ganking and having utility will be OP. Obviously, numbers play a big role, how fast you clear your jungle plays a big role, so the meta is not gonna completely shift. However, the playstyle of every champion will shift quite a bit. A great example of this is a champion like Evelynn, who, while it won't be able to get as far ahead from farming, can get far ahead from ganking because she has really good ganks with her invisibility. However, she has been very weak for many patches now ever since her third ability nerfs, so her damage is quite low. So no matter the meta change, she will personally need some buffs to keep up damage-wise with other champions. Moving on to the mid lane, we of course have Ryze in the God tier. I don't know how the champion dodged the nerfs. I don't necessarily think his kit is inherently toxic. I think what really needs to happen is some nice damage nerfs in the late game, and he will be easily balanced. His numbers are simply way too high. In the S tier, we of course have our typical mages and our anti-mage king, Kassadin. Last patch I had him in the God tier together with Ryze, but I can't really justify that because Ryze is just so much better than Kassadin, better than any mid laner, right? The only major change that kind of has happened in the mid lane for me, yes, I shifted a couple changes from A and B tier. The Irelia buffs weren't as impactful as I thought, so still quite weak. But the major change is the Victor nerfs. He's back in A tier. Victor is not necessarily bad. He's still an incredible mage, an incredible champion to play. The problem now, after he got these damage nerfs, is that he's outshined by other mages. So why would I place a champion like Victor when I can play a champion like Syndra? So it's not like he's bad, right? He's relatively still very strong. He's just outshined in his role, in his specific category by other champions that can do his job better now and scale like monsters as well while having really good early games, specifically talking about Syndra. So no major changes in the mid lane, mages continue to dominate. Moving on to the Dragon lane or ADC role, I have included a couple mages that have increased in play rate quite a bit, so I felt confident including in my tier list, even though I usually only put marksman type champions on my tier lists. Ziggs is just incredible, right? He's able to have insane wave clear, he's able to do insane AoE damage, he's one of the best mages, one of the best champions right now. and he's a great counter to a lot of these enchanters that have been popping up. He's able to burst them down quite quickly from afar with his ultimate, so when your team engages on a champion like a Seraphine, like a Sona, Ziggs can easily follow up with his ultimate, while most ADCs might not be able to follow up on that backline damage. Seraphine is also going to be included just for the sheer utility and wave clear that she can bring to a team. However, what you have to keep in mind about other mages is that their synergies with supports, right? Enchanter supports are really powerful right now, and obviously this is why I'm comfortable putting Seraphine in S tier, because she synergizes super well with enchanter supports, while most other mages, Ziggs included by the way, synergize a lot better with engaged supports that are not that good right now. But we'll talk about supports when we get there. Let's look at the ADCs. Other than the two changes with including the mages, I have downgraded Jinx, who got some very undeserved nerfs, to be honest. Definitely no point to nerf Jinx that hard. I guess she was running a bit rampant with all of the enchanters being good. However, I don't think those nerfs were needed whatsoever. And I've also put Kai'Sa a little lower. I thought because of the enchanter meta that should be a little better, but the issue is that Kai'Sa struggles against enemy enchanters, and she struggles against the range in general. So I think she's one of the most overrated ADCs right now, to be honest. I'm gonna have to put her in B tier. There's a lot of B tier ADCs right now, but the God tier and S tier and A tier ADCs are still great choices. Of course, Corki continues to dominate. Somehow he dodged patch nerfs as well. I have no idea how. Finally, let's talk about the supports. No major changes. The only real change is that Blitzcrank has been downgraded from God tier after his nerfs. They're actually pretty big nerfs. The damage on his first ability was definitely needed. That was a great choice. However, the base health nerf was actually pretty big. But again, the main good thing about Blitzcrank is his grab, and as long as his stats can keep up, his utility and champion gear will always be strong because of his grab. So he'll continue being an S tier champion. Of course, it's mostly enchanters that are going to be dominating the meta. Sona, Seraphine, the God tier champions. Of course, Milio is a great choice. Karma is a great choice. Lulu with a hyper carry. Janna, very similar role to Sona and Seraphine, just a little weaker at it. Zyra is the best mage in my opinion. Lux is also decent, but Brand I don't think can keep up. For engage supports, we have Nautilus and Maokai as the premier best engage supports. Leona did receive some nice buffs. That's gonna push her to A tier. However, I don't think that she's gonna be S tier just yet. While yeah, she's a little tankier, she still can't really keep up with this enchanter meta. And that is it for my tier list. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, leave them down below. If you have any disagreements or if you have an underrated or overrated champion, let me know down in the comments. Let's discuss further. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe for more Wild Rift content.